Canada's Wonderland announced a brand new launch coaster being built for 2025 called AlpenFury. It is a Premier Rides launch coaster, will feature 9 inversions, so that is tied for the second most inversions on a coaster in North America. The ride will have a maximum height of 50 meters or 164 feet for my American friends watching, a drop of 47 meters or 154 feet. It has a length of 1,000 meters, so exactly a kilometer, or 3,281 feet for any Yankees watching. And it has a top speed of 115 kilometers an hour. That again is 71 miles an hour for any bald eagles watching. It'll feature 2 trains with 3 cars each, arranged 2 across in 3 rows for a total of 18 riders per train. The first thing I want to talk about is the name and theme behind the ride. So let's take a look at the story. So the park's website says, "The villagers at the base of Wonder Mountain closed off the climbing trails decades ago, after tales began to spread that it had become home to beasts and mystical forces. One legend holds that at the mountain's core, fire and ice come together in their most raw elemental states to create a powerful natural force that is both terrifying and awe-inspiring. The story has become so ingrained in local culture that Alpen Village now celebrates this mythical union with its own fire and ice festival every year. As a visitor, you're fortunate enough to find yourself in the village during the height of the festival. It's a jubilant and colorful celebration. Those brave enough are invited to visit the sled house, where a sleek and modern sled awaits, outfitted for a journey through the very heart of Wonder Mountain and beyond. The temptation for an adventure overcomes any trepidation you feel about facing the forces within. You board the sled and buckle in before being launched into the journey of a lifetime." So that's the story that the park has put on their website. If you look closely, it actually mentions the actual history of Wonder Mountain. So the first sentence, "The villagers at the base of Wonder Mountain closed the climbing trail decades ago." So for those of you who might remember or were alive back then, Wonder Mountain used to have kind of walkways that you could go up and visit on the top of the mountain. If you ride Vortex, you could actually still see the paths and the doors or the doorways up at the top of the mountain. And these walkways were closed off decades ago. So the story of AlpenFury actually really ties into that part of Wonder Mountain's history, which I think is really cool. So let's start off with the layout. So you're going to take this right-hand turn immediately out of the station and you're going to hit a boost. That's what they're calling the first launch. It's not much of a launch, but it gets you up to speed to hit the first element and dive into the mountain. The first element after the boost is this twisting airtime hill. Now, I feel like not a lot of people are talking about this hill. It looks like it's going to give some pretty decent airtime. Most people are overlooking it, I guess because it's between the 2 launches and it's right before the biggest kind of main part of the ride that everyone is talking about, that being the launch out of the top of the mountain. But this hill looks like it's going to give some decent airtime. I wouldn't say ejector, I'd say more flowjector. It's not the ejector airtime that this park really desperately needs, but it is still going to be some pretty good airtime. After that, you're going to hit the main launch sequence inside the mountain, which goes through a cave that's going to be built into the mountain. And one thing I like about this part is that the track turns black here to really add to the darkness inside the mountain. So you hit this launch, you pull up into the first element, which is a double inverting top hat. Now, there is some controversy surrounding this top hat because the park is marketing this element as 2 inversions. Technically it is 2 inversions, but I don't think it's going to feel like 2 inversions. I think it's going to feel more just like 1. You twist and then hang to the side before twisting the opposite direction back down. Each of those twists is its own inversion, and technically, statistically, yes, it is. I just don't know if it's going to feel like 2 inversions. As you dive off the mountain, you're going to drop between the mountainside and Wonder Mountain Guardian's first lift section. And this is one of many head chopper / hand chopper moments on the ride. After you drop off the side of the mountain, you're going to go into this low to the ground turn as you kind of fly up into this overbanked S-bend. Now, I don't really know what to compare this element to. I'd say off the top of my head, it looks like the S-bends on Fury 325, but I don't know how similar it's going to feel. I've never ridden that ride, so I really don't know what to say about it. People are saying this is the most chill part of AlpenFury, but I don't know if it's going to be... I wouldn't call it chill. You're still going to feel the speed at this part. You're going to fly pretty close to the ground here, so you're going to be feeling like you're going pretty fast. After you leave this S-bend, you're going to go up into a 0G stall. Now, this 0G stall it's very different from others because you twist one direction into the stall, hang like you normally would, but then instead of twisting out in the opposite direction like most other 0G stalls, it's kind of like the stall on let's say Pantheon, where you'll twist out in the same direction. After you exit the stall, you'll go into the second element of the ride, which I would compare to Fury, that being the turnaround. Now, Wonderland has called this turnaround the Skyflyer Loop. They did so because the attraction that formerly occupied this plot of land was a sky coaster called Extreme Skyflyer. It was removed just this year to make room for AlpenFury. So that's kind of a cool way to pay respects to that ride, naming this one-of-a-kind element after it. So this turnaround, it's very similar to Fury's Treble Clef, but instead of stalling to the side and then twisting out to dive down, like on Fury, you're just going to dive straight down into a roll, like a downward spiral. Kind of like the barrel roll down drop you'll see on some RMC drops. This looks like a very snappy element. In the off-ride POV, when you look at the back of the car, it looks like it really snaps through this. I anticipate this to be one of my favorite elements on the ride. Following that, you go into another uniquely named element. This is the Ice Winder roll. It's kind of like an inverted top hat where you have two back-to-back rolls. You twist one way into one, hang it to the side, then twist the other way out of it. After that, you go into the third uniquely named element on AlpenFury, the Fire Serpent roll, which is basically two back-to-back zero-G rolls. But these are cool because they twist around the track from the S-bend on the outbound leg of the coaster. Now here's where I'm going to get to a concern that a lot of people have been having about this, especially this portion of AlpenFury, and that it's going to feel repetitive. Because you do have 4 rolls back to back to back to back. And yeah, I could see how this would be feeling repetitive. But I think each of these rolls are profiled in a way that they're going to each feel unique. Like it's not the same element back to back to back. It's going to feel somewhat different. I've never experienced an element quite like any of these, so I don't know for sure. But I do anticipate it to feel somewhat different from each other. I don't think it's going to be completely repetitive. I mean, if you look at Behemoth in the same park, that ride has 3 back-to-back camelbacks, and each of those I love as much as the last. So I don't think it's going to be too much of a problem with feeling repetitive. After that, you have the second and final proper airtime hill on the ride. This one takes you back towards Vortex's drop, and it, again, like the first one, I'm not expecting any crazy ejector here, but I'm expecting some decent airtime. After that, you hit your final inversion, a zero-G roll over Vortex's drop, which is going to be super cool. Vortex has 2 interactions with AlpenFury, this zero-G roll at the bottom of the drop. And the first element goes right over the top of Vortex's drop, so that's going to be really cool for the people on Vortex. Not only do they have that interaction with Yukon Striker at the turnaround, but now they have these 2 interactions with AlpenFury. After that zero-G roll, you're going to hit the final 2 bunny hops into the brake run. Now these bunny hops, I don't know if they're going to give much airtime. I mean, if they do, it's not going to be sustained or anything. It's just 2 little bumps, but I still think it'll be a fun way to end the ride. Kind of unique in my opinion. So as a whole, I think this layout looks fantastic. It is full of action, not a dull moment on the ride. The pacing looks fantastic if it actually keeps up to what the animation shows. Only thing I would change is I would add another airtime moment somewhere in the layout, but again, I don't think that's too much of a concern. There is 2 other airtime moments on this ride, and they do look pretty good. Plus, this isn't an airtime focused ride. They were obviously going for the inversion record, so it's pretty hard to fit a bunch of airtime moments in a ride that has to have 9 inversions. I think the launch out of the mountain is going to be absolutely incredible. The fire blasting out of the top of the mountain is going to be so cool, especially at night. Just a lot of people, like nobody has talked about how good of a night ride AlpenFury is going to be, just with the fire blasting out. It's going to be so bright, breaking the darkness with that fire. And then the part of the park where AlpenFury takes up, there's not a lot of lighting there at night, so it's going to be really, really cool. And it's going to be that much more chaotic at night, so I'm really looking forward to that. Now, there are 2 concerns that people are having with the ride. The first one people have with pretty much all Premier coasters, and that is the trains. So the trains on AlpenFury, they are your typical cramped, tight Premier trains, but there are some changes. So first and foremost, no comfort colors. Thank goodness for that. This is obviously 3 months past the announcement date. IAAPA has happened, they've unveiled the train there, and we saw for ourselves that there is just lap bars. And while we're on the topic of the trains, I know I'm about to rip on it because, I mean, Premier trains are just terrible in general. But I think the trains do look fantastic. They look like sleds. They have a nice sleek design. I like the wooden, I don't know what to call it, a wooden frame, I guess, on the front. Overall, the trains look good. And another positive about the train that I think will be a pretty big improvement over other Premier trains is that they don't have that stupid side paneling on them that you see on a lot of the Skyrocket IIs. It's nice and open on the sides, so it's not going to feel as cramped, and I don't think it's going to be as hard to get into as other Premier trains, because that's a huge complaint that a lot of people have with Premier trains, is that they're really awkward to get into. Another concern that people have, which I'll admit I kind of had this concern too, is the capacity. So we have two 18-passenger trains, and yeah, at a park like Canada's Wonderland that gets that busy, I can see how capacity can be a huge concern. I mean, it's not going to be anywhere near like what Leviathan and Behemoth can do. But honestly, I don't think it's going to be as bad as a lot of people are saying, and here's why. So if you have a similar sized coaster as AlpenFury with a lift hill, then the train's leaving the station, then it's taking its time to go up the lift hill, then it goes through the layout. So by the time that train gets back, the other train will have already left the station, and the station will be empty while there could be a third train in there boarding. So I see that that's mainly the concern that people are having, but AlpenFury, we have to remember, is a launch coaster, so as you leave the station, you're going to take that turn and then you're gone. There's going to be no kind of extra time for that lift hill to take it up. So you leave the station, you're going to be going through that circuit right away, and then you're back. Like, the website says that the ride is 1 minute and 20 seconds long. I don't think it is. Like, from the video I'm watching right now, like the off-ride POV, the video is 1 minute and 6 seconds long, so I don't think it's gonna be too much of a concern. I don't think a third train would really up the capacity that much. The concern I do have with capacity, however, is if one of those trains goes down, let's say like midway through the day or whatever, it has a mechanical issue, you gotta take the train off the track, and then the ride will be operating with only one train. And that would be detrimental big time to the capacity. That is a concern I've seen a lot of people have as well. Hopefully, I don't think it'll be too bad, because of all the times I've been to Wonderland, I've never actually seen a train go down. So that would be a pretty uncommon occurrence, but when and if it does happen, because I feel like at some point through this coaster's life, it will happen. It's just bound to happen. It'll run with one train all day, and that'll be brutal for the people in line, because then you have one 18-passenger train on a minute or so ride cycle. So the capacity at that point will be brutal, but hopefully that'll be a very rare occurrence. I think that will be the case, so it's not too much of a concern for me. So yeah, as a whole, AlpenFury looks incredible. I do think this is a perfect addition for Wonderland. It's really what we needed. It's very different from anything else we have. It's a huge centerpiece. Like, people are going to be excited to be in that area of the park, because right now, I mean, you have the Fly there, you have some kids coasters, but nothing else really. For me, this area of the park is just kind of the bland area between Yukon Striker and Leviathan. I really just pass through there. I never stop. So now that we have this whole new Alpenfest area with this awesome new launch coaster, it's going to be a much more lively area of the park. And another thing is that this will really diversify Wonderland's coaster lineup, because right now we have a top three. We have 3 giant B&Ms that you go and you marathon all day when you go to Wonderland, but other than that, we don't have really any other standout coasters. We have so many coasters. We have 19, I believe, with AlpenFury, but a lot of them aren't good. Like, we have a lot of cookie cutter rides. Like, we have the Vekoma SLC, we have our Vekoma Boomerang, we have rides that you'll find at so many other parks, honestly, that just really aren't good. Really, other than the big 3 we have right now, the only other rides I'd consider riding are Vortex and Backlot Stunt Coaster. Other than that, there's a lot of really lackluster stuff. So now, with AlpenFury, we have a really solid top 4 that you can marathon when you go to Wonderland, and it's going to be that much better, even just with one new coaster. So yeah, that's my thoughts on AlpenFury. It looks amazing. I cannot wait for May. It cannot come soon enough. So when opening day comes, I'll give my full actual review of AlpenFury, where I express my thoughts on how it looks in the park, how the area looks, and of course how the ride experience actually is. In the meantime, I'll try to make some more analysis videos. I mean, this is my first YouTube video, so I'm really new to this. So if anyone has any suggestions they could give me, I am open to any sort of criticisms you may have. But yeah, other than that, thanks for watching, and stay tuned for my next video, hopefully within the next few weeks. Bye bye.